Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a ton of books. And this month, there's not a lot of print books yet to show for all the reading I've been doing because we're still doing ARC August or ShARC August, for which I am a team leader for team Azure Tides. We are the Dolphins. And as you might know, dolphins can push back at sharks. Although we'll see how well we do because we don't know how the sharks are doing at the moment. I suspect the sharks did really well that were assigned to our team last week. Just comparing notes with the sharks themselves, one of them I think read more books than I did in week 1. So it happens. Yeah. And I'm not surprised because Nicole at Dusty Book Sniffers does read a lot of books. She downplays that a lot more than she should. She reads a lot of books. And when she needs to, she can read books very quickly. So I am not surprised that she might have beat me in week 1. And yes, we were playing the whole team versus the 2 sharks. But yeah. I was hoping to counteract the sharks so that the rest of my team could just focus on getting the points. So we'll see how well we did. We're not losing. I think we came in second or something. I don't know. We'll find out because it's really hard to know this early in the game who's doing what. And anyway, I think we're doing okay. But, that's all just me feeling out vibes, I suppose. If I get official information that I can share, I will do so. But for the moment, we're just doing okay. This week, our sharks are very friendly. And we'll find out how much they've been reading. One of them, for sure, if they are reading a lot, they're going to be cryptic about it. So, yeah, it should be fun. So for week 2 of ShARC August, I finished 9 arcs so far. And technically we're on day 16, so you'll probably hear some overlap in week 3 with the ones that I finished off this segment with, because, these videos, theoretically I was going to do this one on the 14th, and we got busy. I work at a used bookstore, a Friends of the Library used bookstore. It's actually a brick and mortar shop, which is really nice. If you have a local library system that's thinking about it, it's a great idea. It's not hard to fill up the bookstore with books. The hardest thing is actually figuring out what to do with the ones you can't sell. So having a good recycling system and volunteers that can help keep the books circulating, so culling the ones that have been there too long and all that. It's a great idea for a Friends of the Library group if they have the space available. They can find some place they can get for cheap, or if the library system has a building they're not using that they could turn it into a Friends of the Library store. There's probably a lot of places that could do this. And it's fantastic because it's not just those weekend sales or quarterly sales that a lot of Friends of the Library groups do. It is every day except Sunday. Every week except for major holidays. So it's really great for the library, and when they're deaccessioning books, they can bring us van loads of the books that they're getting rid of, and then we can turn those around and sell them in the store and manage our collection so that we can maximize how much money we make for them. Community members bring us books and donate their books. We get a lot of estates that they're cleaning out books, so box loads. There have been some weeks where I personally have sorted through as many as 40 or 60 boxes of books. Those are fun weeks. So it's been a busy week. We finished up a half off sale that was 3 days last week. So now we're getting ready for the next big sale, which is Bag of Books in about a month and a half. So I've been doing extra hours here and there for stuff involving the bookstore, and that cut into filming energy. Not so much time, but when I got back, I was not really in the right mood. So there was that. But now we're catching up. So the first book I finished within the 8th through now time period was Half-Light by Mahesh Rao. This one is set in Darjeeling, so in India. And it is about a pair of young men. One is a guest at this out-of-the-way inn with his sister and mother, something like that. And the other young man works at this inn. There's like a 5-year age difference, but they're basically in the same age bracket. And the younger one is more sexually assertive. The older one is actually not quite out of the closet for himself, let alone for anyone else. But he's aware that he's interested in men. And because of a landslide, these men are stuck with each other. And the other people at the end, there's like 9 guests or 9 rooms occupied out of the inn. And then the staff that were there when the landslide cut them off from everyone else. And they're just stuck there. And as happens in books where there could be a romantic plot, they fall for each other, because what are they going to do while they're stuck there for several days? And they have this cute little romance, and then the landslide is cleared and the guest leaves, as guests do, and they go on with their lives. And then there's a part 2. And I won't say much more about part 2. But, yeah, this was a really good one. I liked that while there is sexual content, it's not like a porn novel. As someone on the LGBTQ the A part of that spectrum, I do appreciate when stories can tell the story of this couple and their interactions and the results of this meeting and this relationship without having to give me all the details of what they're doing with their squishy parts. I don't need it. And I appreciate literature that's a range of how sexy the sexy bits are and how squishy they are. There's enough squishiness. If you like that, you will find some of it in this book. But there's more to it. That was actually the Swimming Pool Library by Alan Hollinghurst. My gripe with that book was that it was basically just a porn novel. Like every other page, they're hooking up with somebody else. And that's it. It's so distracting that I think there was a plot besides that. But it was hard to find what else was going on because it was just every other page. And lots of detail and not much else that stuck out. So this was a nice contrast. This was actually a story, and you get a sense of the countryside where the inn is, and then the setting where they end up in part 2, and all the social and practical stuff that gets caught up in these relationships that these people have. It was really good. Complex enough for a reader like me, and yes, with some sexy bits. And if you are looking for male sexy bits, think you'll like the ones in this book. So anyway, something for almost everybody. Yeah, so that book comes out, I think, September 11th of this year. So keep an eye out for that. I would not be surprised if Half-Light shows up as at least a nominee on prizes, because it was that quality of writing and storytelling and complexity, and not just a romantic story, but it still had it, and it was that kind of novel. It would deserve to be longlisted for a prize somewhere. So yeah, we'll see if it is. But even if it's not all great novels make it onto prize lists. We know that. Read it. It's good. Next up, I finished Mrs. Pargeter's Past by Simon Brett. This is one that I was very happy to see was a Read Now book. You don't even have to put your name in for those. You just click on it, download it, read it. So, yeah, I was very happy because Simon Brett is one of those authors that I discovered during COVID, actually, as I was looking for long series that I could find through the library or through streaming audio somewhere, and was able to come across a whole bunch of Simon Brett novels in audiobook format and a couple in ebook format so that I could keep myself busy during that lockdown period. And Mrs. Pargeter was actually the first series I read by him. I was actually caught up with the series when I read this arc, which is not always the case when I read books and series as arcs. And as you might know, if you've watched previous videos, I don't worry about that too much because I like to see if the book can stand on its own or not. If you've read the whole series, you might miss where you're going to be confused if you haven't read the whole series. So I do put in for books that are later in a series just to see, am I lost? Did I enjoy it? Do I feel like I was left out of the loop? All that kind of stuff. But in this case, I was caught up. Mrs. Pargeter is a widow. Her late husband was a crime boss, a popular, successful, wealthy crime boss who got knocked off, and now she's got his little black book with all of his contacts, and all of the people who are beholden to Mr. Pargeter are supporting his widow in whatever way she needs, which helps because she still finds herself in sticky situations. This time she's helping out a friend, somebody from the group of friends/supporters who's found himself in a bit of a quandary where there are some very bad men that want to kill him for money that he owes them, that he knows better, and yeah. So they go to bat to try and help him out, and safe houses are involved and all this stuff. And it turns out that Mrs. Pargeter knows these bad men. Even though most people that know these bad men either work for them or are dead. So it's kind of a fun one. And we find out more about her and how she fit in with Mr. Pargeter in the first place, because the shtick has always been that she doesn't know about his crime boss career, that she just left his workings to him. The business side is not for her sweet little innocent mind. And she just played along with that her husband is wonderful, and crime? What crime? He's a businessman. That's all. But she has hidden talents that are why Mr. Pargeter married her in the first place. So we find out more about her, which is nice because it rounds out her character. She's not quite such a caricature anymore. But it's the kind of series where it can just be fun. I gave this one 5 stars. Somebody less enamored with the series might say 4.5, because yeah, you might not get as much out of it without reading the series. You wouldn't know why you care about these characters because they are people that have featured in all the books so far. So, oh no, the bad guys want to kill that guy? Yeah, you're going to miss the emotional aspect of that. Anyway, I recommend the whole series. I think you should read them. This one was only 192 pages. They're not long books. So if you need a series of short books to read for number of books for something that they don't need to be long, I highly recommend it. The other series I really liked by Simon Brett are the Feathering series, which is two amateur sleuths, middle-aged women, in a small town in England called Feathering, and their adventures. One of them is a widow, I think. The other one is divorced, or maybe they're both divorced. Anyway, they are middle-aged women of a sort that are not usually featured. So I find those stories great because, diversity in sleuthing. It's great. And then the Charles Paris series is my other favorite. That one I think is done. There's a lot of books in it. And I can't imagine that Mr. Paris is going to survive much longer with how much he's been drinking in his books. So, yeah, I suspect that series is done. He's basically retired and moved on, and yeah. But Charles Paris is a B-list actor. So, okay, so Charles Paris is a B-list actor, and we follow him through his adventures, trying to find work, trying to keep work, trying out all the different things that you do to make money as an actor when you're not one of the big A-list people. And Simon Brett worked for the BBC as one of his career moves way back when. So he's writing from experience with those books. And you get a really interesting perspective on game shows and stage productions versus stage productions for film and all this kind of stuff. It's great. Charles Paris himself is a bit of a caricature. He's a grumpy, divorced alcoholic with a complicated relationship to his family, and he keeps running into murders. So kind of straightforward setup, but the setting and the way it's handled from one book to the next is great. So anyway, new author for you if you haven't read him before, Simon Brett. They're all short books. So moving on, what else have I read this month? The next one I finished was the Silver book. We needed one that was a metallic cover. The Silver book has silver in the title, which would count, and I would bet that when the book comes out, it'll also be silvery. But it's hard to tell that kind of stuff in an arc on the screen. But this one was also LGBTQ. Silver book, alluding to silver screen. This one is set on a film set for Casanova in Italy, in Venice, and in other parts of Italy, where they are working on a film set, and the main characters, the older main character is the director for costumes and settings or something like that, artistic director. I don't remember what he's called. I suspect that that's one of those things that would have been clearer if it had been translated a little differently. Because this is in, trying to translate terms from Italy to terms that we would use. And sometimes I was confused. So that is a criticism I had. It's not a very big one. And I think if I read it more closely, I could find that information. But first impressions, I was a little confused about what exactly his job title was. But you got the idea. He does the sets, he does the costumes with other people. And that's where I wasn't sure whose job is what. But maybe they just share the work. Who knows? But he's somebody that's sought after enough that he's never out of work. But he's a bit of a curmudgeon and has his ways that he, sticks to. And directors just have to tolerate him, and they know that. But he's good, so they hire him. He comes across this young man who is fleeing his past and has ended up in Venice and is not sure what he's going to do. And he's cute, and they hook up, and he brings the young man with him as like his boy toy or something, and gets him a job on the set. And it really is very much like that. I don't remember if they use the phrase boy toy, but it's that kind of thing. I think at least a couple of the characters do say something along those lines, like call him the older guy's toy. So you get the point. There's more sexual content in this one than in Half-Light, but there's still a lot of plot. And a lot of the sexual content, it fades to black, or there's some plot point that's involved in the scene, so it's not just about the sex. So again, if you're like me and you're not really reading for the gay sex scenes, this is also a good book for LGBTQ. It does have sexual content, but it's not gratuitous. There's points to it. And you get kind of a sense of their relationship as the scenes change in tone throughout the story. It's going through, they meet, they have a relationship, and then what happens to them as the story continues. While working on the set of Casanova. If you have read or watched Casanova, it's got enough sexual content that even if the characters in this story didn't do it for you, there's sexual stuff constantly in that story. Yeah. Talking about banned books and films, this would be one that I could see how they would get that. I wouldn't ban it. It's entertaining. But yeah, it's the sort of film where if you have a new relationship with someone that you've only just met randomly in Venice, and you've traveled with them to this film set, you might feel a little insecure that your partner is involved in said film set. And yeah, it's that kind of book. But the wildness of Casanova is contained. It's not like a free-for-all set on a free-for-all, which it could have done. So I liked the restraint. It could have been a lot less restraint. And I gave this one 5 stars. It was good. I was probably less the target audience for this one than I would have been for Half-Light, but it's a difference in shade, really. That's all. And I could also see this one being nominated for some stuff. It was also really well done, and it does take on a lot of issues and ideas of relationships between people and what motivates people to be in relationships with each other and all sorts of fun stuff. So definitely also good. You should read it. It should come out in November 6th is what Goodreads is saying. Oh, Mrs. Partridge's Past should come out in October. And then we have Notes on Surviving the Fire by Christine Murphy. This one is already out. It's been out since February. It was suggested to me by a friend on BookTube as something that they thought might be nominated for prizes. I have not noticed it nominated for prizes. Doesn't mean it hasn't been, because I haven't memorized all the long lists by any stretch. It was good. The first scene threw me off a lot. It was very much drugs and violence, and gave me the impression it was going to be along the same vein as Good Girl or some of the other admittedly prize-nominated books that are all about drugs and alcohol and sex and violence. And I don't get a lot out of those. I'm kind of tired of them. Unless there's something else going on. There is. And I'm glad I kept reading this one because it was a 4-star. I found enough that I really liked about it that it was a 4-star. The reason for the acting out in the first scene shows up not too long into the book. You start getting an idea, okay, she's really pissed off, and there's reasons. And here are some reasons. And it's very appropriate. And it's a bit of a thriller. I can't tell you too much. I don't want to give it away. But if the first scene throws you off and makes you think maybe this is not a book for you, give it at least 2 or 3 chapters before you DNF. Because the tone of the first chapter is not the tone of the rest of the book. Something that if I had not been reading it because a friend told me to, I might have DNF'd this one if I was a DNFing type. So, just things to know. That one came out in February. It is not quite 300 pages, so not much of a commitment, and it does move pretty quickly once you get into it. Next up was Night Terminus by Ellis Scott. This one is also LGBTQ. It was a 4-star for me. And I didn't really click with this one. I didn't hate it. I liked some scenes, and it was fine. It just, I was bored for part of it. It's only 168 pages. It comes out in February. Some readers have really liked it. It is looking at the AIDS epidemic. So there is some substance to this one. And it's not really steeped in sexuality, which is nice. You would think this would be a higher rated book for me compared to the other two if that was my standard. Obviously it's not, because this is the least sexy in so many ways. And yet, this is a 4-star, despite it being shorter. So I'm still feeling out how exactly I would explain why this one didn't hit well for me, but it just didn't. It's an interesting time period. It's AIDS in the 80s. When it's not really well understood yet what it is, how you get it, whether being around someone with it will kill you or not, that kind of stuff. And then it moves forward kind of from there, and stuff happens and stuff. It's kind of sad. You kind of tell from the title, Terminus, people dying. It's a traveling around the world story as well. And I think that might be where it lost me, because it's trying to travel a lot. And there's actually multiple parts to this book. And by the time I got to the later parts, I was bored. So that did not help. If I needed to reread this book for a prize that it was nominated for, if I decided I wanted to reread it, like buddy reading or something, I might even just skip the first part, that's the world tour, and see how the other parts read by themselves. But as written, the world tour part bounces from one scene to the next so quickly, from one setting to the next, that I really didn't have time to get my bearings to really, settle into the story. And for me, that was a little unsatisfying. It could have been 20 pages longer. And this is not a long book. 20 pages longer. Put a little bit more into descriptive writing and draw us into those scenes a little better. Maybe take a page out of Elmore Leonard. Use all your senses, draw us in. And I might have liked it a lot better. And I suspect that the same problem happened in the later sections too. And I just wasn't even worried about it at that point. I already knew it wasn't a 5-star. But I suspect that this author could benefit from doing more of that all 5 senses sort of description. So maybe that's what I was missing. I don't know, it's hard to say why sometimes books don't hit for you. But this one was just a 4-star. Not bad. I could still see people nominating it and even longlisting it. It's just not my favorite of the LGBTQ books that I read. So that was that one. Let's see. Let's clear some of these tabs so my computer doesn't get mad. I finished one that wasn't an ARC. I know, crazy. But it was a streaming audio. The South by Tash Aw. This is one of the Booker long list nominees. So this one was also a 4-star. I did mark it as a top 2025 book. It was good. It was set in Malaysia, I believe. I know the author is Malaysian. Let me pull up the notes on this one. This is one that, again, it's 4 stars. I liked it while I was reading it, but it didn't stay with me very long. All right, so this one's also, it's the description in Goodreads starts out with a radiant novel of longing that blooms between 2 boys over the course of one summer. And I did notice that part. This one, the descriptors were lovely, the setting the scene, almost to a point where the plot seemed secondary more than it needed to be. But I'm still not sure about why it ended up being 4 stars instead of 5. Because I did like the writing for the descriptions and setting the scene and drawing us in. It was lovely. I just didn't get a lot out of the story. And the relationship between the 2 boys seemed so secondary that I know I read it. I couldn't tell you about their relationship very well. They had one. So, I don't know. This is one that I will probably remember more as I listen to other people talk about it that liked it more than I did. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that scene. But yeah, this one would be the 4th of the LGBTQ books I read in 1 week. And the most recent I finished. Yeah. So, I'm still not surprised that it was a long list book, because the writing is beautiful. I do remember the writing being lovely. I just am not sure about the storytelling. If I just didn't click with it and didn't catch enough stuff because I didn't click with it, or if it's like we lost the plot in the lovely description. So we'll see what other people thought of it. And it's short, so if it's shortlisted, I might go back to it and maybe read it in print without audio and see how that changes my perspective, because right now it's so new that it's not showing up at the bookstore yet anyway. So by the time it shows up at the bookstore as a used copy, maybe I will reread it and see what I think, if it's shortlisted. If it's not, we'll see. There's so many books and so little time. Anyway, so I finished 1 from that long list so far. Yay! And then we had a quick prompt. We have these treasure hunt prompts for ARC August, or ShARC August, which we only have 24 hours to pick and read and review our book. And the first one of these was a book with a lock on the cover. Or the second one, because I think the silver book was for the treasure hunt. So this would be treasure hunt 2. But a book with a lock on the cover. This one was hard for a lot of people, and I might have accidentally ended up with 18 more ARCs while trying to find a book, because I put in requests for a bunch. Not just ones with a lock on the cover, because, of course, in the process of looking for one, I also found other things, like the sequel to the Simon Tolkien book that I finished last week that I really liked. I think it was last week. So I will be reading that. We don't have to wait till next year for the sequel. Its ARC is out. So I got it, and I will be reading it. Yay! But not yet. Anyway, back to this book. So I found, after getting 18 new ARCs, that I already had a book in my collection of ARCs that I needed to get to that had a lock on the cover. On the little door on the cover. Called Until the Walls Come Down by Gal Podjarny. This is a book set in Israel, in a mixed Palestinian and Israeli settlement or neighborhood. I should remember where they're at. Anyway, in a place that was initially a Palestinian community that many Palestinians left during the violence in 1847 and 48. And while they were gone, their homes were claimed and assigned to Jews that had escaped persecution elsewhere following World War II. So we enter the story with a mixed couple where she is a Jew and he is a Palestinian. And her family's kind of gotten used to it, but they're still not sure what to think of him. His family won't talk to him anymore. But she's going to have a baby, which changes things a little bit. And meanwhile, her parents get killed. And she has to deal with the estate. And finds herself in this battle to save her parents' house that turns into a microcosm of the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it has a happy-ish ending. How? Like, I'm in my 40s. I was more optimistic when I was a teenager. Like, surely, as people get to know each other and talk about things and work out that they're actually not that different anyway, they'll find a peaceful solution and they'll stop fighting. And every president in my lifetime has tried to make peace in that area, and they all seem like they're making strides, and then they don't. A couple decades further on, I doubt it. I will be very surprised if they are not still fighting by the time I keel over of old age, assuming that's how I go. So I was concerned with how this battle to save the house started going. Like, there is no way this is going to end well. I will save the rest for you to read for yourself. Because it actually ended really well, and I really enjoyed this one. This is a 5-star. Highly recommend. Let's see when it comes out. It's one that on the Goodreads listing there, it doesn't have a date, but I will bet it has a projected date. Okay, so it published on Kindle edition in July. I don't know if it's going to have print. Here we go. paperback, Atmosphere Press, and it came out the 22nd of July in paperback as well. So keep an eye out for that one. I really enjoyed it. It was surprisingly positive given the setting and the situation. It was set in 2023. Given what has happened in that place now, I wonder what the author thinks. But the book is still really good. It's still hopeful. There's still hope. Maybe not there. I don't remember if that neighborhood is still standing. But it might be. I don't know. It might have gotten bulldozed, though. So, yeah. But good book. Read it. It's good. Then we've got 2 more. The one that I was really annoyed with, and that was probably not well marketed. Death Takes Me by Cristina Rivera Garza. I gave it 2 stars. I felt generous. This book came out in 2007. The English translation comes out this year. I don't remember if it came out this year or if it's coming out this year. I don't recommend it. Unless you really like abstract poetry and metafiction. Because that's what it turned out to be. Death is in the title. Yes, there are bodies. Yes, there is a serial killer. Did they catch the serial killer? I don't know. Was the serial killer one of the people involved in trying to find the serial killer? I don't know. How many bodies were there? I also don't really know. Yeah. It's very meta. It breaks into poetry randomly, and maybe the plot is carried in the poetry. Sometimes I thought that maybe I could figure out what it was trying to say. Not always. I'm not a poetry person, and it was really poetry. It was not telling a story in an epic poem. It was very artsy. Not my sort of book at all. If it is marketed to people that like poetry and experimental fiction, it might do okay. That's what it is. The murder mystery element is incidental. And if you're reading it thinking that you're going to get anything to do with a murder mystery that's being solved, you're going to be disappointed. And from what I saw from other people's reviews, that played out for a lot of people. So this is an author, Cristina Rivera Garza, won the Pulitzer for her memoir, not for prose fiction. So it's not terrible. It's just not what it seemed like it was, which it means that it needs to adjust its marketing so that it seems like what it is, so that people like that stuff will read it. So that was frustrating, but then I picked up my next one, which was for the fishing for prompts, which is going on right now, which was a book set in my favorite season, which is tricky. My favorite seasons are when there's flowers, and so it'd be like early fall and springtime. And actually this one hits both. Springtime being slightly more my favorite. And Death in the Gardener by Georgi Gospodinov, who's Bulgarian, I believe, is about gardening and springtime, and kind of a metaphor of springtime and winter and fall, by extension, as a way of thinking about death and, living on in the next generation after parents die. So we're following a man whose daughter is nearing graduation and whose father is dying of cancer. So we have multi-generational. He's dealing with his father's aging and thinking back to the past and to his grandfather and all this stuff, with the metaphor of springtime and fall and winter, and how his father is in the fall of his life and will die in winter. He dies in winter, and then we have springtime and we keep going. So it was lovely. It is very much about springtime. So that's great. And it starts out set in October, which would be my preferred part of the fall. So perfect. And I did not know, beyond just some idea of that metaphor, what it was about. So it worked out very well. 5 stars. Lovely book. Not very long. It is a translation of a book that came out in 2024. And the English translation either comes out shortly or just came out. Let me open this one up and see what it says. So this one, let's find the other editions. Come on. Yeah. All 19 editions. This one's one where the English edition has definitely not been out in ARC format for very long. I only just got the ARC recently. Most of the reviews are in Russian or other East European sort of languages. I could tell the ones that were Russian because I've studied a little bit of Russian. But there's editions in German and Polish and French and Italian. I think that's Hungarian. I have a harder time recognizing Hungarian. Spanish and Russian. So most of the reviews that are out for it on Goodreads are for those languages and are in those languages. So keep an eye out for the English translation. It was good. I like the hardcover edition cover from Goodreads. It's black with gardeny stuff on it. The one that my ARC is the cream colored cover with kind of a bulb and other like botanical drawing things on it. It's okay, but I think that the black one is better. So if the people doing the covers for this book ever see my review, which they might, it's one of those where there are probably not thousands of people that are talking about it on BookTube. You never know. I like the black cover better. So if they do another edition, that one I think fit the tone of the book a lot better. But I'm not sure most readers are going to care. It's a good book. It's a book in translation from a country that I don't read that many books from. And the author in this book talks about that novels and long form prose like this novel are not really a thing in Bulgarian culture. So it's not surprising that there aren't as many books that I've been reading translated from the Bulgarian. So that's kind of fun. And if you're looking for books to read around the world, make a note of this book. It was really good. So that's what I've read so far in the second week of ARC August. And I am currently finishing up a nonfiction Civil War book that will come out later, I think in February, called If I Can Get Home This Fall. It is by Tyler Alexander. And it's actually looking at the Civil War through the lens of a particular young man who was a soldier in the Civil War and wrote to his girlfriend a lot. And he was in all these battles, like a huge laundry list of battles from the Civil War. So we get a soldier's perspective for all these episodes of the Civil War. And they're well-written letters, very much just a soldier's letters. They're not like literary, but it turns into a really good book with history mixed in, to give context to the letters as needed. So keep an eye out for that. As I said, I think it comes out in February. So we have a little time before it comes out, but that one will be a nice addition to the Civil War book world. I run the history section at our bookstore, so I get to shelve a lot of them, and we have like 4 whole shelves of Civil War books. So there are a lot of them out there, but this one's a take that I haven't seen before. Doesn't mean that other people haven't done it, but I don't think they have with these letters. So if you think you've read all the Civil War books and have been looking for something new, this might be something you want to check out. And I have a couple others I'm finishing up. I'm reading The 11th Hour still by Salman Rushdie. It's a set of 4 stories, novella length to short story length. I've finished 2 of those 4 stories, or I'm partway through the second one, because other books came into priority with new prompts that dropped. So I should be finishing the Salman Rushdie soon. It is good. I like his longer, more recent novels best. My favorite is still The Enchantress of Florence. And then Haroun and the Sea of Stories was nice. But yeah, in general, I like his more recent fiction a lot more than that early stuff. Satanic Verses, it made the news for stuff. As a novel, it was definitely not my favorite. Midnight Children, a little bit better than Satanic Verses, but not as good a novel as some of the recent stuff. Golden House was much better than Midnight Children and Satanic Verses. So if you read the stuff that tends to be on book lists for Salman Rushdie and decided that he wasn't for you, try some of his more recent stuff. And his memoir about being attacked and losing an eye, that's really good. It's called Knife. It's not very long, and it's a really interesting perspective on being a target for all these people that think that they can murder you because you wrote a book and people didn't like it. So anyway, that's what I'm reading at the moment. There are a few others that I've started and that I had to set aside for prompt reasons, but I'll get back to them. I don't like to have too many partially read arcs sitting around because I don't want to forget them. So all the ones I've started I will probably finish by the end of the month, along with a lot of other ones that I don't even know that I need to read yet. So anyway, since we're getting almost to an hour, I'm gonna finish up and get back to my reading, and hopefully get another fishing prompt before the evening is out and find a short one that I can finish before fishing is over. So hopefully you're having some great reading this month. Let me know if you've read any of the arcs that I have talked about or we're going to read them, and what you think of them if you do read them, because it's always interesting to see how our perspectives differ on the same book. And yeah, I will see you guys in future videos. If you need to comment on this video so that you can get points for watching a host's content video, and you don't know what to say, leave me an emoji that relates to the latest arc that you read that you liked, and tell me which arc that was. Because if you liked it, maybe I need to read it too. And I will see you again soon. Bye, guys!